is Matthew O'Brien. I own Midland Pictures in Omaha, Nebraska. Midland Pictures is a motion picture storytelling studio that works with clients to help them tell stories that engage their audience and community to forge lasting emotional bonds. So the overall approach to my desk setup is really centered around efficiency and productivity. I want to reduce the friction in my workflows as much as possible so I can be as productive as possible. I'm married, I have 2 kids. I only get about 8 hours a day to really focus on my content creation, whether it's client work or the content I'm creating from Medium and YouTube. So I need to make sure that the command center is situated so that I can be as productive as possible in that 8-hour daily time limit. So it's important to me to look at both hardware tools and software tools that can allow me to be as efficient as possible. Removing friction from my workflow allows me to stay in the creative flow. I've talked about this a lot on my channel, how coveted it is to me that once you get in the creative flow that you can run these long stretches and stay in the creative flow for as long as possible. We all know how difficult it is once you're popped out of the creative flow because you're troubleshooting something, you're interrupted by something, or something slows you down, and it can be destructive sometimes to your overall productivity. So 5 or so years ago when I started Midland Pictures, I knew I needed a command center style desk that would allow me to have the space that I needed to have all of the monitors, peripherals, and accessories that would allow me to do what I do. So with the help of my good buddy DJ Hornacek, we set out for Home Depot and purchased a bunch of lumber and then got some steel pipe from Menards. So I knew that I wanted a riser on my desk so that I could mount my monitors more at eye level. So DJ and I spent a day putting together this desk, and it turned out great. I finished the desk with some tung oil because I didn't want like a stain or paint or anything like that on there, and the finish is just much more of a sort of natural light wood color, and I think it looks great. So with a desk tailored exactly to my liking, I needed a central computer, a brain to run the whole operation, and for a long time I had a 2013 Mac Pro, but I just recently picked up the new Mac Studio. Now my Mac Studio is configured with the M1 Max chip, 64 gigabytes of unified memory, and a 2 terabyte internal SSD. The Mac Studio was the best solution to replacing my aging 2013 Mac Pro, and I've been using it for well over a month now, and I could not be happier with it. Because I had the 14-inch M1 Pro MacBook Pro, I really got a taste of the M1 power, and I knew I needed to have it in order to speed up my workflow for both post-production with client work and my content creation, and it has had a huge impact. For storage, I am primarily relying on the internal SSD on the Mac Studio. Most of my client work takes up considerably more space than a YouTube video. A YouTube video averages around 100 gigabytes per video, whereas a lot of my client work, because it's shot in 4K or on more advanced cameras shooting in RAW formats, those can take up anywhere from 4 to 8 terabytes of footage. So to deal with those storage needs, I have a Promise Pegasus 2 R8 that connects via Thunderbolt 2 through an Apple adapter to the Mac Studio, and then I have an identical Pegasus 2 R8 that acts as that drive's backup. They've been a workhorse in my setup for a few years now, and I couldn't do what I do without them. But because the Mac Studio has such a faster internal SSD, I have relied on that for all of my YouTube content. So in addition to the 2 Pegasus 2 R8s, I also have an original Pegasus R4. This connects via Thunderbolt 1 through the daisy chaining process that you get when you have a Pegasus RAID, and I use that primarily for my YouTube archive because I'm often going back and looking for B-roll from previous videos. I can store it all online so it's connected to my computer, and I can easily access older videos to pull B-roll in for new videos. Now, of course, that drive needs a backup, so I have an 8 terabyte Seagate Backup Plus drive connected by USB 3.0 into my Mac Studio, and that serves as the backup for the Promise Pegasus R4. Now, all of these drives' backups are managed by an app called ChronoSync. Every day at 1:30 in the morning, ChronoSync triggers a sync from the Pegasus 2 R8 to its backup drive and the Pegasus R4 to its backup drive, so that the backup drives are a mirror image of those main drives. If you're interested to learn more about that process, I do have an older video on my channel, and I'll link it down in the description. I use the Magic Keyboard with Touch ID. I picked that up when I purchased the Mac Studio so I could take advantage of all things Touch ID. Not only does it make it easier to go past your computer password when you first sit down at your computer, I keep a password on my computer, but it's also great for using Safari and logging in as long as you have iCloud keychain to all of the different websites and services that you use. And then of course there's the Magic Trackpad 2. You've seen some of the videos on my channel advocating for it. I've talked a lot about 3-finger drag. I use the Magic Trackpad for everything that I do. To learn more about 3-finger drag and why I think the Magic Trackpad 2 is the best Apple-made input device for your computer, you can check out a couple links to videos I've made in the past about the Magic Trackpad 2. So the monitor at the top of my configuration is a 27-inch Dell display. It's a 1080p monitor, something that was just a little bit less expensive for what its purpose is. This is my preview monitor. So when I'm editing in Final Cut Pro, I use the feature built into Final Cut called AV Output. I did make a video on this feature and I'll link it in the description below if you want to learn more about it. But this allows me to put a full screen image of whatever I'm working on in Final Cut Pro. Sometimes I like to use it for personal reference just so I can look at something full screen without having to actually enter full screen mode that you can in Final Cut when you're not using a preview monitor. The biggest reason I have this is that when I'm collaborating with a director, I want them to be able to watch the full screen preview as we work on our edits. It's not exactly easy for them to look over my shoulder and stare at the timeline in my smaller viewer window, so the full screen preview gives them something that they can look at and gauge the feel and the pacing of the edit. I also use it for one more thing, and I'll touch on that in a moment when I cover my HDMI Matrix as one of the accessories I have in my desk. Now the two monitors on either side of my setup are both Apple Thunderbolt displays. On the left display, I use this for Final Cut's browser so I can have a full screen look at all of the clips and media that I have in a given Final Cut library. This helps me to feel more efficient, especially with heavier assistant editing workflows, so that I can log and review footage that I want to consider for my edit. On the right monitor, I use this for more of the productivity tools that I need while I'm editing. So I'll have pages up if I have an outline or notes from a client about what they want for their edit. I also use Finder extensively in the right window. I usually have a Safari window there, so if I need to refer to a website while I'm editing, I can do that without having to leave Final Cut Pro. And that extra monitor on the right really allows me to have almost like a second computer that handles all of my productivity stuff, all of the task management, project management stuff I need to get done, while always keeping Final Cut Pro open so I can stay focused on the edit that I'm working on. And then of course there's the center display. My main display is the new Apple 5K Studio display. I used to have a 4K Dell display there, and although that was fine, I really wanted to upgrade to the Apple Studio display. One of the big reasons I love the Studio display and think it's worth the $16.99 price tag is the fact that when I sit down at my computer and I wake it from sleep, the Studio display and the two Thunderbolt displays come on instantly. There's no hesitation while the monitor searches for input signals like they do with the Dell displays. Now, of course, there's a lot of benefits to the Studio display, color management that matches the Thunderbolt displays, webcam, great microphone, great speakers, which I don't really use, more on my speakers in a little bit, but I do find that the image quality of the Studio display, especially paired with Final Cut, is really beautiful, and I couldn't be happier with having it. Now, I did get the VESA option for the Studio display. All of my monitors are mounted with VESA mounts. The two Thunderbolt displays on the side are mounted to fully arms, and the two center displays are mounted to a fully stand. They're adjustable as far as tilt goes, but they can't really be moved left and right in this configuration. Fully has some great products for your monitor, and I highly recommend checking them out. I'll include links in the description to the products that I purchased to make this quad monitor setup work to my liking. So in my workflow, I'll often record voiceover audio into Final Cut Pro, or when I'm doing a tutorial video, I'll record my audio directly into Logic. To do that, I have a Blue Compass boom arm with a Rode shock mount, and I use my Rode NTG2 shotgun microphone to record audio, again, directly into Final Cut or into Logic. The boom arm is fully adjustable, and I can angle it so I can get my microphone position in the optimal position for recording audio. Now, the central hub for all of my audio, what's going in, what's going out, and what's being bussed around, is my Behringer XAir XR18. This is a great audio mixer for anybody's edit-based setup. What I love most about it is that it's something that I can have under my desk, and then I can use the iPad app to be able to control all the faders for the mixer. The Behringer creates its own Wi-Fi signal that the iPad can tap into, and that's how the Behringer app works on the iPad. Now I know you're excited to know more about the Behringer app on my iPad and what it's controlling audio-wise. I'll get into that in just a moment. So with the Behringer X-Air XR18, I can pair that with Audio Hijack, a great app from Rogue Amoeba that I run on my Mac, and I can make it so I can control the audio for specific apps on my computer with the fader that's on the Behringer app. So if you look at the Behringer app on my iPad mini, you can see that I have faders for a number of different things. There's Safari, there's Final Cut Pro. These faders control the volume for these specific things. So for example, if I'm editing in Final Cut Pro and need the volume at one level, but then I'm going to go to Safari and watch a YouTube video and need the volume at a separate level, no longer am I constrained to just having the master computer volume from the Mac Studio be the only way I can control that volume. I can actually set the volume of Final Cut Pro at one level and the volume of Safari at another. So the Behringer audio mixer paired with Audio Hijack gives you immense control over the audio that you're hearing from your computer. The most important thing to me is being able to sit in Final Cut, and if the audio is low and I haven't made my adjustments and I have to have the audio at a high level, I'm not getting blasted away when an email notification comes in or a phone call comes in, or I go to play a video on YouTube and the volume is way too high. This sort of on-the-fly mixing is really what's special about having an audio mixer in your workstation. And then paired with Audio Hijack, you have incredible control over how the sound works in your edit bay. Now on my other iPad mini, I have an app called Stream Deck Mobile from Elgato. It's a monthly subscription and it allows me to connect my iPad to Final Cut Pro as well as my computer and create custom shortcuts, everything from launching specific apps that I use most frequently to doing some basic keyboard shortcuts condensed down into a single button push for Final Cut Pro. So if I want to create a compound clip, I can select the clips, press one button, and the compound clip is created. If I want to switch angles in my multicam, I can press one button to cycle back and forth between the angles. To learn more about that, I do have a video about my Stream Deck Mobile setup, so I'll put a link to that in the description and you can go off and watch that to see how I set up my Stream Deck Mobile to optimize my efficiency with editing in Final Cut Pro. Now, one really cool piece of equipment I have in my edit bay is my 4x4 HDMI Matrix. And what my HDMI Matrix does is it allows me to control the input and outputs of HDMI from my computer to my home theater setup to my preview monitor. So for example, if I'm working in Final Cut Pro and I don't really need to take advantage of the AV output feature because I'm working by myself and I want to have a movie playing on in the background, let's say it's around Halloween and I want The Shining playing, I can switch the input to that monitor from my computer to my Apple TV, which is over in my home theater setup, and I can interface with the Apple TV on that monitor separately from my computer and watch The Shining on the preview monitor. Some of you might be thinking, well, why not just open Apple's TV app and then put that window up in the preview monitor? The reason I don't want to do that is I don't want the computer's resources being allocated to playing back a movie while at the same time I'm editing 4K footage in Final Cut Pro. Plus with the Apple TV, I can switch between all the movies I own through Apple. I can watch YouTube, I can put on Netflix. I have all the different apps the Apple TV has where I can watch content that plays in the background while I'm working. The HDMI Matrix also allows me to send my computer's HDMI out signal to my home theater. So if I have somebody in the studio that wants to screen a YouTube video or a client project, they can sit on the couch and watch that screener through the home theater system as well as on the 55-inch Sony 4K TV. Really what the HDMI Matrix does is it gives me options and it gives me control. I don't use it terribly often, but just knowing that I can send my signal from my computer to the home theater or I can pipe in the Apple TV to my preview monitor gives me options so that I can take advantage of these tools to fit whatever mood I'm in and whatever style of work I want to be working in. Got a USB 3.0 hub. This is just a USB-A style hub that allows me to take some of the older devices that I have and connect via USB-A. Having the two USB-C ports on the front of the Mac Studio is great. I have a few USB-C accessories that I use that with, but for the ones that are USB-A, it's just easier to have this hub mounted under the riser and quickly accessible. I also have two outlets at either end of the desk. They have both USB-A charging as well as three-prong outlets. Having those on either side of the desk is great because if I need to plug in a light or a hard drive, I have plenty of options in that configuration. What I really love about them is that they're black and they fit perfectly under the riser. These are a really great option if you have a desk setup or aspire to have a desk setup similar to mine. Another accessory I have is what's commonly called a toaster or a hard drive dock. This can take a 3.5 inch or a 2.5 inch hard drive and connect to my computer. It's connected via USB 3.0, and when I put a internal style hard drive into the dock, it mounts to my computer and I can access the contents of that drive. The reason I have it is because all of my deep archive material is on these 3.5 inch HDDs, and whenever I need to pull up an old client project, I have access to that quickly and easily. Again, efficiency and productivity. I don't want any obstacles when I need to access an archive drive to get in my way from being able to do that quickly and easily. Now, a new desk accessory I have is from a company called Pitaka, and Pitaka reached out to me saying they wanted to send me a bunch of products that I could take a look at and consider for review on the channel. So one item they sent me was their Mag Easy slider. This is a charging station for any MagSafe enabled iPhones, AirPods, or with an adapter you can charge your Apple Watch. What I like about this is it easily connects to the phone and it's a great mounting point for your phone if you need to access it while you're working. What I really like about this MagSafe charger is that it rotates, so if you need to put your AirPods on, you can rotate it, and if you want to access your phone, rotate it back. It's kind of like a lazy Susan for your iPhone. If I do decide to keep this in my desk setup, I'll probably drill a hole in my desk and route the USB-C cable down through it, because right now it's going back under the riser and I don't want to be able to see any cables in my setup. Now you can see in the background here that I have a new gadget in between my two iPads. I'm not featuring this in my desk tour because it's something that I am just testing out right now. The folks at Monogram sent me their Creative Console. This is the Master Console version. I really wanted a better solution for the color correction that I do. I'm not a colorist, but I do find that it can be difficult at times to interface with the color effects using the Magic Trackpad. I really like the idea of being able to use a larger interface like these wheels or the dials to quickly adjust things like color temperature, tint, as well as make adjustments to the shadows, midtones, and highlights. I'm really excited to integrate this into my workflow. I haven't had a chance to use it extensively. One other thing I would probably add to the Monogram is I personally would probably create some custom stickers that I could put on some of the buttons or the dials, so I have a quicker and easier ability to understand what each button is or what each dial is right away without having to remember what the layout was. So for studio monitors, I have about as basic of a studio monitor as you get. You saw in my desk tour with Nick that he has some incredible Focal studio monitors. Mine are from Mackie, and they're just little CR3 3-inch studio monitors. These go great with the Behringer X-Air XR18, and they output some decent sound. There's some nice depth to it with a little bit more bass tones, and the midtones and higher tones are nice as well. Because I'm just publishing to YouTube, I don't need anything that is too advanced, although I would prefer some 5-inch Yamaha studio monitors. And with a lot of my higher end paid client work, I hire a sound mixing studio to do the mix, so they use their studio and studio monitors to get everything dialed in the way it needs to be. I have joked around about my OCD issues with cable management. Underneath my desk, I've got some IKEA wire racks that suspend all of the cables and the different surge protectors I use to manage all of the power and cables and all of that stuff for my edit bay. So all that stuff is nice and tucked up under the desk, and then I use zip ties and Velcro ties mainly, to manage all of those cables. I do have the benefit of the couch being pressed up to the back of the edit bay, so all of the stuff that I have going on with cables back there is masked by the couch, so I don't have to be as crazy about the cable management. I also use a few cable management boxes behind my desk so that large clusters and clumps of cables can go in the box and not be an eyesore to those who are looking under the desk. I'll have links to all the accessories that I use for my cable management down in the description, so definitely check those out. Now, as far as lighting goes, I really like my studio to have a dim, warm color. Now, I know all you color fanatics are going, that's the worst thing you can have if you're doing any color grading, but I spend so little time actually doing any color correction, and it's such a small part of my overall workflow but I really want my environment to have just a really nice, rich, warm glow. So I have 3 lamps on the risers behind my monitors, and then I have a strip of LED lights that runs under the monitors so I can have that nice, warm, rich look. The 3 lamps use halogen bulbs and they're all on dimmers. They're also connected to HomeKit, so every day in the morning, the lights automatically turn on in my studio, and around 5 o'clock at night, the lights automatically turn back on. My desk chair of choice is by Steelcase, and it's their Think chair. This is several years old. I bought it probably 7 or 8 years ago, and I got it from a local office supply outfitter that had a used chair in their inventory. Normally this chair retails for around $800, but I picked it up for around $200, lightly used. So that's a great option if you want a higher end office chair that has the comfort and ergonomics that you're looking for. You might check a local office supply outfitter to see if they have any used inventory. I've been using this chair for years and it's always been incredibly comfortable. I've used it on 8, 10, 14-hour edit days and have had very little back pain and soreness. So it's a good option for those of you that are using maybe a cheaper chair from Office Depot or something off of Amazon that isn't to your liking. A friendly reminder that everything featured in this video will be linked down in the description below, so definitely check it out. If you do click on some of the links, they most likely are Amazon affiliate links, and if you purchase something, even if it's not one of the products that you click on, I do get a small commission, and it's a great way to support the channel. If you liked what you saw with my Stream Deck mobile setup, you can purchase all of the custom button icons that I created using Affinity Designer. Those are for purchase on my website at matthewobrien.co/shop. I also have my Final Cut Pro and Finder templates there, so if you want to try to increase your organization, efficiency, and productivity, you can purchase my Final Cut and Finder templates on my website for $10 each, or you can buy my total bundle that includes my template for shorts for $25. All right, I think that's gonna cover it. This little desk tour, I think, has come to an end. I hope everyone enjoyed it. You know, do all the normal things, like, share, subscribe, and until the next one, I'll see you all soon. And don't forget, keep chopping that broccoli. Also, how do you like this format where I'm looking off camera? I did this with Nick's video and I wanted to try to do it again with this video. So what do you guys think? Is it weird to see me looking off camera like I'm talking to a person? Or is it kind of cool and a little bit of a different setup? I'm trying to experiment here, try to figure stuff out. I'll show you what I'm looking at. I have a XLR cable here and I taped this little smiley face. See that? This little smiley face guy. So I'd have like a little smiling face to look at while I spoke to this imaginary person who's interviewing me about my desk setup video. What do you guys think? Is it just kind of awkward for me not to look at the camera? I only did one angle too, and I'm not going to punch in and all that stuff because I wanted to be able to do this mostly as a voiceover and occasionally show my face as I talk about my desk setup. Hopefully I didn't make too many mistakes with the screensaver and you're not seeing that mess up a bunch of my shots. I keep looking at the monitor because it's the brightest thing in the room. And I really should just quit YouTube because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Anyway, keep chopping that broccoli and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.